Thank you for listening to the Dog Trainers Podcast, a podcast created by dog trainers for dog trainers, or anyone who's ever fallen in love with man's best friend.
Episode 34, Old School Marketing Still Works. Hey everybody, welcome back and thank you again for listening to the Dog Trainers Podcast. My name is Mariano Alvarez, that's Brent LaBrada, and we want to thank you guys so much for listening. And before we dive in here, we just want to remind you again that you can find us on all major social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all by searching Dog Trainers Podcast, and it's all one word, Dog Trainers Podcast. You can also find us on all major podcast platforms, iTunes, SoundCloud, and the like. All of them, all by searching Dog Trainers Podcast. I want to give another quick shout out to some cities that have been showing us love. I do these based on who's been the most active listeners for the very last episode that we had put up. And I'm noticing some trends. So what's up again to Atlanta, Georgia, San Jose, California. These guys have really closed the gap there. Lake Stevens, Washington, Denver, Colorado. We want to thank you guys so much for listening, and we want to keep putting out amazing content for you guys. So if you have ideas, please reach out. Now, with that being said, let's bring us into episode 34. We couldn't be more excited about this one. This is actually, I'm really excited about this one, like a lot. This is going to be old school marketing. It still works. And we want you guys to know that. And we want to go through a couple different stories and, and reasons behind why we believe that old school marketing is still absolutely vital to this day. So over to you, bro.
What's up, man? How you been?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good this week. Yeah, I'm super excited about this topic because you want to know what's so funny, right? So I've been doing this for a while, right? 12 years is almost half my life, right? And the interesting thing is, for so long, I've always felt like I was behind, right? Because I didn't have my YouTube channel up, I didn't have my social media following up, I didn't have enough Facebook followers, all these things. But it's so funny because this was just a perception that I had in my brain that I was behind, because business-wise, I actually have more business than I can actually handle sometimes, right? Especially right now during the pandemic, right? And I'm sure most of the dog trainers listening, we can relate. So many puppies, so many rescues, so many separation anxiety issues that we're dealing with because of the pandemic. And so people really need a lot of our help. And the one thing that you learn doing dog training for a while is that there is no shortage of dogs. There's no shortage of business. However, I think getting this podcast in, I'm obviously able to kind of, wet my palate a little bit in wanting to create content and stuff like that. But what I've realized over the years is old school business still works. Old school marketing still works, right? Things that were taught to me by my mentors, things that were taught to them by the mentors. And when we're saying old school business or old school marketing, what we mean is that person to person interaction, right? Dealing with clients in person, talking to people in person, because I think sometimes, especially in modern day, we can be so caught up on our SEO. We can be so caught up in our searchability, in our Yelp reviews, or in our, status on social media and all this stuff, which all of that is relevant, and it will be extremely relevant in the future. But one thing that we are really, really positive about and unshakable on in our belief is old school person to person interactions with people will never go away. Never.
Yeah, it does paint this funny dichotomy because I think what I've been noticing about social media is a lot of the guys that do it right. Like I know you're a huge fan of Gary Vee, you know,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
I love
mhm.
Gary Vee too, but you're like a huge fan of Gary Vee, which is cool. Shout out to Gary Vee.
Gary Vee, when train your dogs.
Yeah, well, just at least come on an episode of the podcast. How's that? We'd
Yeah.
love to have you on.
After we train your dog.
Yeah, after we but here's what I've noticed though, and I think even Gary Vee would agree to this. The
Yeah.
guys who do it right, like Gary Vee, he understands the importance of old school marketing. He just found a way to do it in the social media sense. But
Right.
it's old school marketing. You're solving problems, you're relating to people, you're everything else. Whereas I notice a lot of the new age dog trainers on YouTube and some of the new age people with whatever they're doing, on my Instagram account, I'll go through their videos and their content is almost more like for the sake of a production. Like it feels more like a movie than it does a commercial, if that makes
Mhm,
sense. You
mhm,
know,
mhm.
and it looks amazing, like in terms of what people can do, like what a 25-year-old knows these days with their cell phone and stuff, without having spent time to get a degree or whatever. Like it's amazing the skill set that they have, except a lot
Yeah.
of them don't necessarily know how to be comfortable marketing themselves outside of making this like very concise production of something.
Yeah, and that was definitely, as a younger dog trainer, that was something I didn't like, the idea of like promoting myself. I could
Mhm.
promote something I could accomplish, but like me as a person, that was always something kind of weird. I guess I want to go into some of the what old school marketing consists of, or what we consider to be old school marketing, right?
Sure.
I think the number one thing that it is important to remember, it doesn't matter what service or industry you're in. The number one thing to make sure that you have return business or continued referral or anything is you have to do a good job, right? You have to meet or surpass your clients' expectations on a regular basis. And the funny thing is, as a dog trainer, I always notice that we as dog trainers, we tend to always have a higher standard than our owners do,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when I think I haven't, done the program exactly 100% the way I wanted, the person that I train their dogs for, their mind is blown away because they were expecting 50% of what my 100% is. And I'm upset that I barely got 90% or 95% of what I know that dog is capable of. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really interesting, but that is going to be the number one thing, is making sure we do a good job. Now, those of you guys listening, I know you guys are doing good jobs. That's not the issue. But just making sure that we do our best to provide as much service and value for our clients when we're actually working with those dogs. Because again, dog training is the other aspect. I think the other thing that we always have to keep in mind is what our relationships are like to our clients itself. Okay, you want to elaborate a little on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll elaborate a little, and I just wanted to clarify one quick thing. So when we talk about doing a good job, the reason why I think that falls into the old school networking like category, because I think new school people still want to do a good job, is
Mhm,
there was this old timey sense of just of achievement and just do a good job type thing,
mhm,
right? It was like a more simplistic way to look at things. But
mhm,
but what I really wanted to add to that was, since we're talking specifically about marketing, definitely do a good job as a dog trainer. I would think that that's clear. But are you doing a good job networking? Are you doing a good job marketing yourself? Because I don't know if you call it a joke or whatever, a saying, I guess, that me and Brent would always throw back and forth to each other. Because before we started this podcast, we've done different videos and things together, and we've written out a bunch, some that we made, some that didn't get made, and so on. Which I'm sure everybody does, right?
mhm,
And one thing we would always say is like, you don't want to end up being the best dog trainer that no one knows. So
mhm,
make sure that you're doing a good job, but in marketing yourself as well. Okay.
mhm,
So to go on to the next topic, you're developing a relationship with clients. I think that that's something, you know, that's something that honestly I've learned a lot of from Brent. I've
mhm,
learned a lot of it from Jim Rohn, reading books and things like that. I've learned a lot of it from different dog trainers who I've looked into, and I've always found this interesting when it comes to developing relationships with clients. Is because, good job aside, let's take it as a given that you've already done a good job. The dog's already trained, and yet I always found it amazing. Me and Brent were just talking about this before we started rolling right now. Brent has this ability to just like freaking poof build relationships out of thin air with people we don't know. We'd go out, before I moved to Arizona, I was in LA with Brent. That's how we know each other. And uh, we'd be out at like a bar or a restaurant or something. Um, and I wouldn't consider myself super antisocial, but this guy is like, "Oh, you know what? You're cool. Come sit with us." And it was like, next thing they're friends and they're like doing things together. And I'm like, "Man, that's crazy how you have that ability." But he does the same thing with clients. He's genuine friends with clients. There are clients who are like family. There, and it's a skill set that I feel like more dog trainers should know how to do. I don't know if it's just this weird like stigma of, and tell me if you kind of agree or
yeah,
disagree, Brent. I don't know if it's just this weird stigma of like dog trainers in particular, this field. I don't know if it's just because everybody's young or everybody's just not quite as like not, I don't want to say ambitious, but like industrious, if that's the word, when it comes to how to build a business. Like a lot of people seem to be content with their handful of clients, having like a really nice Facebook page, never really worrying too much about like, how do I take this thing to the next level? How do I scale up so I'm not training out of my house?
mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, I would say developing a relationship with clients is it is there is a certain level of vulnerability because there is this fine line, and I've worked with dog trainers before in the past that they go, but what about professionalism, right? What about
Mhm.
that it's almost as if they think they're therapists, where there's like this. line of professionalism and personal that should never be crossed. And with many high majority of your clients, there is, right. But however, as a human being, when you put out your feelers, there are certain clients that you just mesh with, that you just like you vibe with, and they're your type of people. And when you sense those types of clients, you're able to kind of expose a little bit more of that vulnerable side, so they get to know who you are, what your story is, what they're about. Because at the end of the day, people are investing in people. They're investing in in passion. They're investing in all these things, especially when it comes to dog training, right? It's very interesting. It's like you wouldn't really get to know your plumber, right? Like your plumber comes over. Very rare do people have a story where it's like, oh, my plumber or my electrician came over, and now we're best friends. But the funny thing is, when we're working with dogs, dogs are people's children, babies, family members, whatever you want to call them. And if you're coming to help their child or family member, automatically you're entering this realm where people have to like you. Number one, they have
Right.
to like you if you're going to deal with their creature, right? Number two, you have to be effective, right? I can't explain. Well, actually, I take that back, because I have I have heard stories where people say, oh, I worked with this other dog trainer. She was so sweet. She was so wonderful. She was this, she was that. But, some of her training techniques didn't work with me. But that person did a great job developing a rapport with that client. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who, maybe at the time were just inexperienced. They do well just simply by building relationships with people. So imagine if you're a very skilled dog trainer, you're very knowledgeable, and you develop good relationships with people. Well, now you have an upper hand on those trainers, right? Again, you don't want to be that really good dog trainer that nobody knows about, right?
Yeah.
And and so when we're dealing with relationships, I think it's important for us to to make sure that we do with a guided, like, don't do it stupidly, right? But it is important for you to really make sure you develop a close relationship with certain dog owners, because there are certain people also that the closer you get to them, the more you can actually help them with their dogs, right? Again, we're going to go back to the saying that my dad used to have above his computer: no one cares how much you know until they know how much
How
you
much you
care.
care. Right.
And, I really enjoy when my clients ask me, so how did you become a dog trainer? So how long have you been doing this? When did you get started? All those things, because that tells me that these people want to know more about me.
Right.
Uh, and those are the clients that usually will refer me clients for the next 10 years.
Yeah, and I think it's a very normal thing. I think it's also whenever someone asks something like that, you take it as a badge of honor because it shows how comfortable they are with you. Because the whole fear about professionalism, which is a valid one, I don't think that that person is ridiculous for having that response. Um, it goes both ways.
Mhm,
Clients, sometimes they're like overly stiff and like just they're keeping it straight, dog training.
mhm,
Um, Not that you should like completely get off topic, but it's okay to make them laugh a little bit. It's okay to have fun. I'm here to make your dog better. Like, this is a good day, right?
mhm,
And so
mhm.
whenever they open up that much, yeah, where are you from? What do you do? What are your hobbies? Whatever.
Yeah,
I consider it a good thing. I'm okay. These people are having a good time. It's like a social event, right? You're
right.
obviously talking. You're opening up. I'm doing something right, and I'm sure as a dog trainer who you're paying money for, I'm sure that if I wasn't doing a good job with your dog, you would not be this happy with me right now. So
Right.
consider it a good thing, and I think the best way that I try to dance that line of because I don't think we don't keep that in mind. Like I'm sure you do too, right? Even though we've been doing this for years, you still keep in mind like don't talk too much. Just like be
Mhm,
friendly, but let's get back to your dog type thing. Um,
mhm,
I think the way that I kind of gauge things is I'll answer whatever the question they're asking me. I'll give them a little something more if that's what the question kind of requires in order to finish it as a complete thought for them. Because it's nice that they want to know a little more about you. And Brent's absolutely right. That's your in. That's how you turn yourself from that's my dog trainer to this guy's really cool and he's also my dog trainer. Um,
mhm,
and now they have like a vested emotional interest in helping you do well because they like you.
mhm,
Um, but once you get that little snippet in there, jump back onto the dog and make sure that their money and their time is not being taken for granted and that they know that you're serious about making this stuff better. And also keep in mind that relationships, I think probably one of biggest pieces of advice that I can only give now, because it was a hard lesson for me to learn personally, was relationships in any capacity, business, friends, family, they have the potential, as long as everything is on the up and up, to last for freaking ever. So there's no rush to, like, information vomit everything about yourself onto them. Just give them little snippets here and there. You have time. Next time you see them, next time you hear from them, whatever, you guys can kind of build that slowly. And in my experience, when you keep it business and just throw little snippets in like that, they
Mhm.
just ask away and I'm happy to answer.
Yeah. And there's a small percentage of clients that will become adopted family, right?
Mhm.
That you're just like, "Oh my gosh, they invite me to dinner, they do this, they do that." But a high percentage of them, it's okay to just be, the very good dog trainer that is also cool.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah, and I love that, and I really, really love that. I mean, I've been invited to weddings. I've been flown to different countries. I've been invited to movie premieres and stuff like that, just simply based on the rapport and relationships that I develop with my clients. And it's so funny because none of those things were architected by me. All I really wanted to know was, do you like your dog? Do I like you? And I exposed, certain parts of myself that was like, hey, this is who I really am. And those people liked it. Right. And there was this authenticity in these relationships.
exactly.
Uh, and I think having authenticity with your clients is super important because I remember being a young dog trainer just trying to be super professional and keeping it straight, straight edge and straight cut. And, we're in, we're out, and thank you very much, and super polite and all that stuff. And mind you, not saying you shouldn't do those things, but definitely there's going to be times where you be authentic, you crack that joke that makes that person laugh, and you do your thing, you be yourself.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, Brent has this way. I think this what I love about whenever me and you talk, like on the podcast or not, is like
You're
you
funny.
describe something in a way that it's like, oh, that jogs my memory, and then I do the same thing. We just kind of bounce off each other. So it's like
Yeah.
the way that you said that just now really made me think of something that I do quite a lot with clients, which is sometimes my way of giving them that little snippet of like a look into my life, if that's what they're asking about, is I'll just explain something of training related in a way that's kind of in my world. Like an example being, I do a lot of like jujitsu and stuff like that. I'll use a lot of terms that kind of cross over from this to that. You know,
Hmm.
or I'll use an example like, yeah, here, here, here. Um, and they're like, oh, you do this and this. I'm like, yeah, and then from there you go, where do you train? Who's your, this and that, and then we go for a couple minutes about that, and then we go jump right back onto the stuff. But
Yep.
what I was kind of getting at was I find it interesting when we talk about people that kind of become family, but a lot of them don't, and how newer dog trainers are more just kind of like straight to the point, almost stoic in their like almost like pre-rehearsed. You know what I mean?
Right, right, right.
Uh,
And my
it's
newer my newer, I mean, like, people who just started out, right?
correct,
Like,
correct. Yeah,
not like 2020 dog trainers.
right. Versus like 2005 or whatever. Yeah, yeah. Newer meaning you're younger to the sport. You've only been doing this thing for however for a short period of time versus people who have years in it, right? So,
Right.
and that goes to everything we've talked about this before. Is like younger dog trainers, I'm going to call them, white belt dog trainers, let's say, just for now.
White belt. I like it.
Your job as a white belt, as a dog trainer, is you find a very particular game plan that works for you, very strict. There's so much to do in jiu-jitsu, but I'm just going to find this. Work your private lessons, you have your curriculum set up before you walk into that person's door, and you try your best to not let it veer too far off of that because you're not that good at troubleshooting yet. So you're trying to keep it to the point.
Mhm.
When you get a little more comfortable, now you're a blue belt, now you can explore. And the reason why you can explore, the difference between a white belt and a blue belt is blue belts are technically sufficient that they can get off task on purpose because if they mess up, they have the skill to get back on track. And
Yeah.
so that's the difference. And then, and then so on, and you get better and better at that. So I don't think it's bad to tell newer dog trainers to keep it to the point, but as you get better, as you get more comfortable, open up. It's all good. Be authentic, be fun. You're a person. You're a very cool person, I'm sure. And let people know, they love it. And it's great. It only works out even in a business sense. It only works out for the better for you.
Yes. 100%. 100%. So, be yourself, get to know your clients. There's gonna be a small percentage of clients that do get to become adopted family, and you might be adopted family to them, because remember, they have to like you in the first place if you're even going to touch their dogs,
Right.
right? And that's where it is. Okay. Um, Once you have these close relationships where you develop these rapports, where you guys are on an understanding, I think it's so important that you ask your clients for feedback. And the reason I would say ask your clients for feedback is because it does two things. A, it lets I've been so many times I thought like I did great with this client, right? And
Hmm.
I've actually asked this client like, so what do you think of our services? What did you like? What didn't you like? Right. And sometimes this was in a form of a questionnaire, and sometimes this was in a form of just a conversation. And so many times I was like, I nailed this one out the park. And then all of a sudden they come with two critiques. And I'm just like, oh shit, I didn't even think about that. Right? Because I'm over here thinking like all cocky, like I nailed like
Right.
the dog looks sharp, everything's great. Like you obviously paid me for dog training. The dog is perfectly trained. You
Right.
must obviously be so impressed. But then it comes into something so simple. It's like, I wish you would have responded to my texts a little faster. Or I wish we could have gotten a couple more pictures during my board and train. Or, um, I wish we could have came in midway and done a lesson because this is a lot for me right now, at the
Mhm.
go home. So there's so many little bits of feedback that you get from your clients. And one thing that does is when your clients not only hear you take feedback, but also understand that you're taking that feedback to heart, it makes them adore you and really invest in you even more, because now not only are they your client, but anytime you ask someone for their opinion, it also puts them on this place where they feel that they want to take care of you and give you good advice, right? So it really helps them feel more invested in the relationship, right, between you and them. And especially if they see you act on that advice, oh my gosh, now they're invested in your business. Now they're invested in your well-being as a dog professional. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I do know what you're saying. And here's another, I promise I'm not going to keep talking jujitsu, but here's just one more example. It's been on my brain because I'm getting back into it lately since things are opening up. And McKenna, same thing.
That's what's on your
Um,
brain. Yeah.
but here's another example that I wanted to bring up, and I think it fits perfectly with this, was when you ask people for advice, feedback, reviews falls into this as well. Essentially the same thing. Is a review is feedback, right? A review is them telling you what they thought. It's just more in review form, which we'll touch on that more a little later because it is important to ask for them in a different sense, just for the sake of like your marketing, your Google search, and stuff like that. But when it comes to asking for feedback, here was an analogy that I found really funny. Um, the reason why people get better in whatever martial art, whatever the sport, is you're actively practicing with people who are better than you, like a coach. The guys who run the
Mhm.
classes are high level black belts or brown belts or whatever's happening. So they're teaching you all the time. Uh, Studious people like Brent, like me, like other trainers that we know, that we like, that we make it our job, not only to just practice what we already know, but to keep learning things from people who know more at something, you know?
Right.
That's a similar thing. Not doing that would be just a bunch of white belts training with each other, never getting any better.
Right.
You're just going to get as good as the best guy in the class, and then that's just where you are. Now, I bring that up to say, in business, make it your job to learn from people who know better. And when we're talking about asking for reviews and feedback, obviously you're not necessarily talking to a dog trainer. You're talking to maybe a client. So maybe I'm not suggesting get feedback on how to be a better trainer, but you never know what this person knows that you don't. I've had clients that are masters of marketing, masters of this, masters of that, and they give me little 5-10 minute conversations that were like that I people pay a lot of money to hear stuff like that. And it's like, man, why is this person like this diamond of information? I had no fucking idea until like 4 weeks later when we're doing our like third go home lesson or something. And it's it's an important thing, I think. Make sure that you're actively seeking out people who know more and learn from them. It's okay to be a good student.
Mhm. 100%, 100%. Um, I would say, on a different note, when it comes to feedback and reviews, I would say legitimately asking people for online reviews is
Okay.
super helpful, especially just because we're catching up with the times now, right? So be it Google, be it Yelp, um, people are cross-referencing, the star rating on Google with the star rating on Yelp, right? And it's really interesting. So I think it's a very valuable thing to get real, authentic reviews from our clients. And the funny thing is, if you make it a point to be close to your clients, or to at least have a trust between you and the clients, they have no problem giving you an honest review.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, obviously, there's a strategy, right? This is what someone told me. You want reviews from people who are your ideal client. Okay. So what that means is, there's a certain type of client that you like. You want their reviews. Someone, let's say, who puts work into their dog and understands that value of the work. Someone who, was committed enough to do all three of your group classes. Someone who is invested in the services that you provide, and what your philosophies are enough, because those are the people that you are going to want to attract. Right. So it's really interesting when people refer people, they refer people similar to them sometimes, most of the time. Okay. And so when you're asking for reviews, obviously, if you have a client who, may not do all their work, or maybe kind of lazy, you don't necessarily want an in-depth review from that person, because they may or may not give a good representation of what you do, right? However, some of them might just leave like, "Oh, she was a great dog trainer. She was awesome, awesome, cool," and that's their review, right?
Hmm.
However, as a consumer, if I read a review that looks like that, I'm not really going to pay it much attention, right? Anything that's really short or not thought out, I'm not really going to read those personally.
Right. I think about it like on Yelp and probably other websites, they have that little option for you as a reader. Like, McKenna and I just went to a new restaurant tonight.
Hmm.
And I'll be going through different things sometimes, and I'll be reading reviews. I do that a ton, mostly with things that where the quality can really vary, like a gym, you know. Um,
Hmm.
and there's that option for you as a person reading to go, was this review helpful to you? And you can put yes or no, and you can put why. So
Yeah.
um, I do the exact same thing that you're talking about. I read like, oh, very nice, this place is awesome. And I'm like, okay, cool. But that doesn't tell me anything though. How
Yeah.
was the
Yeah.
pricing? How was the atmosphere? How were the workers? How was like, I want to know, I'm
Yeah.
not reading reviews to be like, oh, it's nice. Sweet. Okay.
Right.
Tell me though. So yeah, I think and I do agree with you that, there are like the ideal clients that you really want to hear their review from it, and it's not, I don't want that to sound like weird or underhanded. It's just a matter of the reality of a dog trainer, which if you guys are listening, I'm sure you know this by now. Not all clients do their work to the same extent.
Hmm.
Not all clients put
Value the work.
I was just about to right, put the same sort of value on your work and on the importance of the work itself, or even just on the importance of repetition itself, whatever the work you're doing is, right? Lifting weights or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I agree with that. It's almost like protecting what you've built by making sure that you're just putting out a very clear representation of exactly what that is. Because if I set up somebody with homework and they don't do the homework, that's not the same as what I gave you. I'm
Right.
somebody who gives you homework, so I need you to like represent the fact that I do that. So yeah, good point. Good point.
Yep. Next thing I want to talk about, and this is something that is tricky, because as dog trainers, right, our goal is we want to get in, solve some problems, help this person, and then we're done. Right. This is what a lot of the younger dog trainers that I work with. This is what I hear from them. I just want to get in. I want to solve the problem as fast as I can. And so when I start teaching them things about packages or classes or follow-up lessons or all these things, sometimes they're a little like, but why? And it's for this very simple reason. Okay. We have to offer different services, different experiences in our training, so that we can invite them back, if they're interested, of course, for return business, right? So let's say, and again, this is an old marketing technique. It's like, you come to a restaurant, you want the person to come back to the restaurant again. And so every season you change what the specials are, right? So that people come back to try the restaurant at least 4 times a year, right? So offering different services, I'll give you an example of this for those of you who it may not make complete sense, right? So I have clients that they might just hit me up for obedience, right? Or let's say they do privates with me and they hit me up for leash reactivity. Okay. Well, I'll teach them to work with the leash reactivity. We'll get it under control. We will work in controlled settings, until the owner feels confident that the dog is reliable on leash, and then they have really good ways of managing it. And then what I'll do is I will invite them to group classes, right? And I'll invite them to group classes so that they can practice under the stress of other dogs and under the stress of other people. And then we'll do my group classes tend to be at the dog parks, right? So we'll be around a bunch of different dogs. And so we kind of tend to submerge this person into an environment, or immerse the dog or immerse the person into an environment where it's going to benefit them. It's going to benefit their skill set. It's going to benefit the foundation that they've learned, right? And what I do is, by me being able to invite them either immediately after privates, or let's say months have gone by and I reach out to them and say, hey guys, I have this group class that I think would be really helpful for you. Come on back. And what happens is, if we know that we can add value to that person and to what their problems were, and it just reaffirms the fact that what we did to that with them in the past was worth it, right? And so sometimes what this does is it allows people to either level up on the work that they need, or it reminds them how good the work was that they did back then. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
It does make sense, and I think that a way that I look at that exact same thing is it's kind of like when you find someone who you really want to hear more from, a personality on YouTube, a personality on TV, a certain actor, actress. You're giving them the option. It's just an option. You're not forcing them to go to your group class, but if they like what they've gotten, it's always a great thing to give them the opportunity to have more.
Mm-hmm.
Here, you want more? Here you go. Here you go. Here you go. That was
Yep.
the same reason that Brent and I were really serious about, like, man, we gotta, like, when we first started the podcast, even now this is only episode 34, but we really wanted to be sure to, like, hey man, should we like be advertising this thing like with actual ad dollars and stuff, or should we wait till there's more? Because I don't want people to listen to 5 episodes and be like, oh, that was good, but that's all of it.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's always good to have more information, and people will digest it to the extent that they want. And then when they don't, you're good. That's all good. But I agree with you. Like, make sure that if the opportunity is there for them to immerse themselves as deep as they want to, and into your services and into what you can offer for them and their dogs.
Yeah. Here's a couple ways that I've done it before in the past. So, like, all my board and train dogs, I will have a group follow-up class, right? And so what this means is, every graduate, I call it my alumni course. All my alumni, they come to me and we meet at a park, and we do it's a 4-week course. And in this 4-week course, we just review things in real time, in real environments. The first class we do at a dog park, right? We work on our recalls, we work on our healing, we work on making sure that everyone can fundamentally control their dogs. After that happens, then we go to some place like a mall, like an outdoor mall. We literally will walk, like mobbing, like 9, 10 dogs deep through a mall, asking that our dogs to sit, lay down. We'll go into some shops and shop with the dogs. We'll go to food court areas and eat with the dogs. Like, we're mobbing deep as a class, but these are all dogs who already have foundational work. And what I'm doing is I'm getting the owners to come out of their comfort zone and to participate into a class that just adds more value to them, right?
Hmm.
Then we might go to a restaurant together and one of the classes, and then we do a group hike as one of the classes, right? And so this is just a service that I just came up with just for fun, because it brought a lot of my alumni and my students back together. And I can't explain how many friends were created out of these classes, like people who met each other that were like, oh my gosh, like your dog's like my dog, like married couples now having friends with another married couple because their dogs are similar ages and they all did in kennel and both of them are listening, and it's so crazy, and they go on vacations with each other now. It's nuts how often that happens. So yeah, having just different services to offer post training, or having different levels of training, I would say, right? So I have 3 group classes. I do my basic, my intermediate, and then I have a whole series of advanced level group classes that are broken into off leash or competitive food work. And we're hopefully working on an agility class later in 2021. But we have a different tiers of group classes, right? And it's crazy because obviously you do the basic, you're going to take value from that. If you liked the basic, you're going to come back and do intermediate. The more that people invest in your services, the better referral rate that you get from these people. It is crazy.
Yeah, well, a lot of it has to do with the fact, kind of like Apple did with all their stuff back in the day, was they made it all kind of compatible with itself, and it's not like the easiest thing to make it compatible with things that aren't Apple products,
Mhm,
which it helps build their ecosystem. I heard it from somewhere. I don't know if this was like from Apple, but it was kind of the essence of what they were going for. I think it was Gary Vee that was
mhm,
like, if you have a really nice garden, you want to put up a nice fence around your garden to protect it so that
mhm.
things don't come in and destroy it. Right? So, that's kind of what Apple did by closing off everything to only
I mean,
itself.
a closed system. Yeah, closed system. Well, you create a community. You create a
Right.
community. You create a culture. You create a something that people can actually attach to and refer, right? And that's the beautiful part.
Right, exactly, and, and that was kind of it's different, obviously, because Apple is like a cell phone and it's a product versus a dog training service, I think, is a little more adaptable. I mean, you still could, go to other group classes and, like, dive in with your dog, but having the opportunity to push through from basic to advanced with one training system, it creates that sense of familiarity with your clients because a lot of them go through at the same pace. They go through basic, intermediate, advanced together. Their dogs grow up together. They become friends. It is a fascinating thing to see. I think as a trainer too, that's a really awesome way to make long term friends out of your clients because you almost go through this like not only do the dogs do well, so you're just doing your job, which obviously is a requirement when you're a dog trainer for these people, but
Mhm, mhm.
you are kind of helping them raise their dog. How do you not get close with someone?
Yeah.
You're going through the ups and downs with them. How does that not make you guys close just naturally, if anything else? So yeah, I totally agree. I think uh, my way I found to dive into that wasn't so much group classes. It was more just learning where and how to volunteer your time. You know,
Mhm.
and so it was one of those things where when I moved here to Arizona from LA, which was only now like just over 2 years ago, because I moved and I got here in April, and it's now it's October, so 2 years and whatever many months ago. Um, I noticed that I got here and I kinda got a feel for how things were here, and I decided, I like it. I can see myself being here for a while, maybe forever, and so I'm going to make it a point, now that I'm starting back at scratch, to really grow my roots quickly and absolutely maximize my time as a new person here, instead of just kinda slowly gaining a client here, gaining a client there, and eventually it'll steamroll into what it is. And so I figured out, you know, why don't I just talk to a couple rescues? I saw some on Facebook, hey, this dog needs a home. Can you help us, call this person at this rescue? And I was like, okay, sure. And I called them and I'm like, yeah, I'll take her on. In fact, by the way, I'm new to the area, but I'm actually a dog trainer. And they're like, oh, sweet. Never mind. Take this other dog then because she needs work. And it was great. And it was honestly one of the best things I've ever done. And mind you, I still have one of their dogs right now, by the way, and I take one or two on at a time, even to this day. But I've gotten a lot of clients out of them. I've gotten a lot of friends out of them. I've gotten a lot of just knowledge, working with people who have been working with dogs at a different capacity than a trainer. But it all kind of stemmed from volunteering time, and these days I'm more focused on. I still work with rescues directly, but I'm more focused on. I'm also an executive board member of a local foundation. It's the Phoenix Metro Chamber Foundation, and it's an extension of the Chamber of Commerce, and it's our job to raise funds for other nonprofit organizations. Okay. So we do that by doing different events and stuff like that. But doing that is you're in front of so many more people than just working with a rescue or two rescues or doing adoption events, because we do events that have nothing to do with dogs. We do events that have everything to do with dogs. And so you just put yourself in front of all these people, and it's for free, by the way. I'm not getting paid for it. It's a nonprofit organization. Um,
Right.
and it takes a ton of time because there's just more strategy, more planning involved when you're dealing with like a bunch of organizations instead of just the one you're working with. Um, and it's been more than worth it, I would say. Again, not just because of clients I've gotten, because of friends I've made, because of different networking opportunities for people, and they've allowed me to to find creative new ways to keep volunteering time and giving things and stuff, how we have this podcast. I started another podcast for the chamber, for networking, and just because I've understood how insane it's been for me and my growth. um but it all stemmed from this one idea one day when I had just moved to Arizona and I was working at a kennel because I didn't have any clients yet. And I was going through Facebook and I was like, yeah, I could take on a dog, sure. you know
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. Learn how to volunteer your time in a way that's valuable to you, and a way that can maximize help for you because it maximizes help for someone else, not to mention all these dogs that you're working with along the way.
Yeah, I agree, and I think one of the big things, again, this is to prove our initial point, which is, um, the person to person interaction is always worth it. It's always worth it. That's actually what we're trying to mimic on the internet, is person to person interaction,
Mhm.
right? It's so funny because, even some of our special guests that we've had, it's strange to know how we think we know them. Like when we got to meet them, via the podcast and over the phone and Zoom and all this stuff, these are people that we followed for many years, and it's like, I feel like I already know you. And the reason is because through the internet, through their content, through the media, we've they've shown us those vulnerable sides. They've shown us their passion, their drive, their, their skill set. They've shown us vulnerable sides of them. And it's so funny because just the nature of being human is you open up to them, and you connect with them, you empathize with them, and automatically you feel like, hey, you're family, right? That's how I felt when I met Tommy Davies. It was just like, dude, you're fam, like you're one of the homies already, because I followed him, I checked him out, I watched his content, I listened to his stories, I listened to his podcast just with doing research, and I was like, I fuck with Tom Davis. And so go ahead, sorry.
I would argue that's why he's as successful as he is and what he does
Yeah.
is Tommy Davis in particular, I think among a lot of the other dog trainers on YouTube that we see,
Hmm.
he's mastered, if nothing else, and there is a lot of other things that he does extremely well, but if
Hmm.
nothing else, he has mastered just be yourself. This is what I am. You can say what you want, but this is how I do it. This is how I live. And I think people like that, and they should, because it's real, right? And it's
Yeah.
funny because we know that that's the case. We know people like authentic, and yet we're still of that weird mindset of like it still needs to be perfect and edited, and whatever the case. I think that's a weird symptom of like the social media era. But
Hmm.
it seems like everybody who does well, like Gary Vee, his stuff is always seems like off the cuff. It's got like a cool intro and outro, but it's just him talking to somebody with all kinds of energy. But that's just Gary Vee being Gary Vee.
True, true.
I think
True, true.
authenticity, being just a real human being, that speaks 100% to marketing in the old school way, because you don't necessarily have to be in person to come across as a person. And
Right.
in fact, I think, to the credit of new school people, it's really hard to do that. Like sometimes, Brent, I'll go back and listen to our podcast. And again, you guys, this podcast was not the first thing that Brent and I have done together as far as online content. We have other videos and things on YouTube. Um, but even so, this podcast, the first few episodes, we're both way more like reserved, and I wouldn't call it bad. Brent and I can talk for days about anything. But as we kind of got more comfortable and became just more like fluid and natural and okay with just talking, it sounds better. And the stats bear that out. Like the later episodes do better, even though they're newer, so they've been up for less time, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
But yeah, it is funny how that works. It's really hard for someone to be natural to a camera. I'm looking at my GoPro right now, like, but it is hard to do, and Tommy Davis does it beautifully, man. Freaking Michael Ellis does it freaking perfectly, and, you know,
Yeah. Well,
absolutely
it's
just
funny,
be a person.
Michael Ellis is normally talking to a class, and there's just a camera on him,
Oh, you're right. Well, yeah,
you know?
he also does those videos outside where he's sitting there talking to the camera, and then it'll
Yeah.
cut to him and his dog working on some stuff. But yeah, man, like these guys, they're okay with being imperfect, and it's the best part. That's what I love about these guys. That's what I love about the people online who I do like. Like again, in the jiu-jitsu world or whatever other world that I'm into, and when it comes to podcasting, I like when you hear somebody gets stuck and not know the word to something, and they sit there like, I like hearing stuff like that, or when people kind of run circles around something before they remember what the name of that one place was. It makes me feel like I'm there with them. I'm trying to actively listen and troubleshoot with them. Like, oh, I know that place that was here and it's called this. And then when I hear them figure it out, I'm like, yes, there you go. Like, it makes you
Mhm.
feel like you're a part of it.
Yep. Yep. I agree. I totally agree. What was something I was thinking about? Oh, here's another topic that we can move on to. Finding ways to add value for free or pretty darn close to free.
Yeah.
Okay. So like what does this mean? This ultimately means, guys, I remember being a young business person and thinking, but shouldn't they pay me for this consultation? But shouldn't they pay me for my time? But shouldn't they? And don't get me wrong, know your worth. Yes, you totally should get paid. If someone is taking up your time or wants your professional opinion, they should totally pay you. I can't explain how many parties I've been to where someone be like, "Oh, you're a dog trainer?" And then I
Hmm.
spent 30 minutes trying to
Hmm.
explain their dog's problems to them. And I say, "Call me in the morning when we're not drinking." Never hear from them.
Never hear from them.
Ever, right?
Yeah.
So offering our value for free. If you see someone who needs help, if you see someone in need, if you see a client who, or even just talking to a client, educating them, education should be free. Initial bits of education, right? You're not running them through a protocol or a system or anything like that, but just talking to them, hearing their problems, what's going on, and not you don't have to charge for it, right? If you really want some money, then maybe give like a 80% discount on it. But definitely listening to people and talking to them is one of the best ways to develop, to just add value for free, right? And that's one of the big things. It's really hard to think of, like, if you're tight on money, like, "Oh, no, but this time is valuable." But you wanna know what's funny is the connection, relationship, rapport you develop with that person for helping them out, strangely enough, makes them wanna give you more money. It's so weird. And so, every now and then there's a person who might just take that information you gave them and just roll with it, and you never hear from them ever again. But the way I always looked at that was, if I spent 30 minutes on the phone with someone giving them free advice, at least they were able to help their dogs or move the needle forward with their issues.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, even if someone couldn't afford me, because so many times I'll talk to people on the phone and they'll say, "How much is your consultation?" And I'll be like, "Oh, it's this much." And they'll go, "Oh, I can't afford that." And I said, "If you can't afford that, I totally understand. I just hope that I was able to make a difference now."
Hmm.
Right. And so what happens is I give someone free information, and they get that free information. Even if they couldn't afford me or do business with me, at least they go into the next transaction educated, right? And this is actually what content online does for people, right? We go in watching a video on YouTube and we see something, and then we go in to a real transaction with a real dog trainer in real life. And now we come in more educated, or at least we come in with a perception or a perspective, right? And so it is so valuable for us to offer value for free, to help people when we can help them, because at the end of the day, if I'm able to turn off my businessman brain for a second and not, clock how many minutes I've been talking to this person, people will look at that as authenticity and connection, and they will value that. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some people that won't. There are some people that will milk you dry for what they're able to get out of you. But I like to believe that a majority of human beings would not.
I couldn't agree with you more. And here's one of the realities that I've noticed with giving information for free or giving your time for free or whatever the case. That you can agree or disagree. That's fine. Um, when it comes to that hard reality, and it is true that if at the end of the day our job, our goal in life, at least our business goal in life, is to help as many dogs as absolutely possible, you do have to protect your time in a sense from people who just suck it all up.
Yes.
And, maybe that's unpopular to say, but what I mean by that is there are people who you'll talk to on the phone who just don't end up doing anything with that advice, which is fine. I'm not suggesting you don't talk to people and spend time doing that. What I'm saying is, if Brent and I want to help as many people as we possibly can with their dogs, a podcast was a really smart way to do it because people can download and listen and take from this whatever they find valuable and discard whatever they don't.
Mhm.
Whereas if we were to spend this same amount of time, we're like 45 minutes in. If we were to spend like the same amount of time talking to one person on the phone, we've done a disservice to everybody else who would have downloaded this episode because now they
Right.
don't have this content. And so you do have to somewhat learn how to protect your time because I've had people actually not that long ago was another one was a girl who called me about her dog, and the problem was something like this. Her dog, she thinks the dog may be pregnant.
Mm.
And I'm like, "Oh, why? Like, what makes you think your dog's?" Oh, I have this other dog. It was a male Dobie and a female Dobie, and they weren't related, but they were like of the same age-ish.
Mhm.
Neither one of them were fixed. And I caught this one humping that one however long ago, and now all of a sudden my female's being really like short and really, really like kind of harsh toward my kids when they're in her space when she was never like that before. You know,
Mhm.
Is she pregnant? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, what you should do is take her to the vet and find out if she's pregnant. That's the first thing I would do because if she's not, then we're talking a behavioral issue that we need to talk about.
Mhm.
Um, she calls me back like 2, 3, 4 days later, something like 4 days later. "Oh, did you go to the vet?" "No, no," and then we go through another 30, 40-minute conversation that ultimately ends with, "I don't know, do you think she's pregnant?" I'm like, "I don't know, take her to the vet," and this is not an exaggeration. She called me over the course of the next, like, 3 weeks, like, 8 times, and they were all long ass she had me, like, video chat so I could see the dog. I'm like, "I don't know what I'm supposed to be looking at, like, I don't know, take her to a vet," you know? And it
Mhm.
and it did get to the point where I'm like, "Look, take her to the vet, let me know when that's done, then give me a call." And she never called me. For all I
Mhm.
know, that dog's not
Mhm.
pregnant. I have no idea. But it came to the point, and I spent too much time with her as it is. So that was kind of a
Mhm.
fail on my part, you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm.
And it was like, you do have to learn to protect your time like that. She meant nothing bad, I'm sure. She just wanted to know if her dog was what was going on. But at the same time, she just wasn't listening to advice. She wasn't being productive. And I'm like, look, I can't really sit here and like do this with you. I've got other clients, other dogs, my girlfriend. I've got a life to attend to,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it's that's what I meant was like it may not be the nicest thing to say, but it's true. Learn how to protect your time, learn how to protect the value that you offer others. And when we're talking about offering things for free or close to it, find the ways to do that that are the absolute most impactful and most practical. Like this
Mhm.
podcast costs us pretty much nothing, microphones, we already have laptops, and then just the monthly services that we need in order to put this thing up, right, and shoot it. But it ends up being helpful to people who listen and to respond back to us and everything else. Whereas, just as an easy example, we were doing YouTube videos together before this, and those were even cheaper to do. But only like a fraction of people, ever really kind of took to them and listened to them, which is fine. It's all about testing the waters and
Mhm.
finding what's useful. And we did exactly that. And we're happy with the attention or the whatever you want to call it, the engagement that we've been getting and how many people tell us how much this helps. So play with it a little, find what works for you, but do protect your damn time because some people love to soak that right up.
Suck it up. They just suck it all up. All right. Here's a couple other things that I would recommend. Um, don't be afraid to actively network with other businesses or organizations, right? So,
Yes.
um, I am notorious in LA. The reason I know so many dog trainers is because I purposely go and reach out to them, right? And
Mhm.
what's so funny is when I reach out to dog trainers, it can be weird sometimes because some people don't want to necessarily be friends with other dog trainers, which I think is weird.
I noticed that.
But yeah, it's just weird. But the ones who do want to be friends, you know, it's so amazing how much of a network that we have in regards to referring business to one another, right? Like if I have a client on a certain side of town that I can't see because I'm very busy, I will call that client, that other trainer, and be like, "Hey, can you take this client for me?" And I don't take a percentage. I don't do any of that, right? Maybe if I was a better businessman, I probably would. But the reality of it is, I want to be networked with people who offer good services. I also want to be networked with people who might be in a different industry than I am, or obviously who are in a different industry than I am, right? So, being in LA, I have clients in the film industry, the music industry, the school industry, the financial industry, so many different industries. And it's awesome, to be able to go to certain events with them and to be able to talk to people who are influential in those places, because you never know who your client's gonna be, in a network, right? Like, you'll never expect it, right? And because you never know who's connected to who. So yeah, I'd love it, but I think you have a little bit more experience in, like recent experience in
Yeah.
networking.
Well, lately in-person networking has been just my whole gig. It's been a lot of like my, I don't want to I'm trying to not sound like what's that word? Like cheesy, I guess, but it's just been so much of my life, so much of my time lately has been I was telling someone the other day, a friend of mine who I met at a networking event. And I was like, "Man, I'm now 28 years old. I've known, like, in head knowledge, I've known how important it is to network. You always hear how important it is to network, build relationships, and blah 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 blah. But man, never ever in my life have I experienced just how useful, just how powerful, just how fun it is to build these networks. And so my experience that Brent's talking about is not only again with the Phoenix Metro Chamber Foundation, but I also am with the Chamber of Commerce, which is chambers of commerce are everywhere, right? In every state, every city, every major city, I think. And it's just like it's just a bunch of businesses that get together and they network and market together and they learn how they can help advertise each other and just get better as business people. That's all it is. And there's all kinds of groups like that. BNI, and they all have their little names or acronyms or whatever, but it's the same thing, right? Get out, meet people, and the big difference here is as opposed to learning how to get referrals and things out of clients, these are people who are other business people. They don't necessarily know you outside of work, at least not in the beginning. So again, it's your job to learn how to build a relationship, not just like, oh, hello, I'm in a suit and tie, and my name is Mariano, the local dog trainer. It's like, oh man, let's go
In
have
a
some.
suit and tie.
Yeah,
That's good.
again, a lot of them have like these funny like little stipulations like that, But instead, it's like, yeah, well, that's cool, man. Listen, why don't we go get some coffee? Oh, you
Yeah.
train too? Let's go to the gym this day. Let's do this. Like let me get to know you. How about that?
Yeah, yeah.
And then from there, you get much more effective because once again, you're kind of breaking through that weird like artificial barrier and just learning how to befriend people. But because they're business minded people who are all in the same boat as you, is trying to find new leads, trying to build that client base. That's why they're in the chamber. You guys kind of go through that ride together. You see what works and what doesn't work together. You
Mhm.
have the opportunity to assess, because all businesses, all industries are different. So it'll be like, oh yeah, well
Right.
this guy's in the website building business. I can see why that didn't work for him, but I think that that could work for me. I'm gonna try it. I know he said it didn't work, but maybe for me it will work. So like you get a chance to feel all these things out. And I think what's been most beneficial for me is meeting older business people. I think Brent, you can agree to this.
Mhm.
Nothing, or almost nothing at least, helps you grow as a person like building a business, you know?
Right.
Um, and
Right.
so meeting these other business people, they've done a lot of the same work that we've done. You read the books, you try to get better at self-help, you try to become more organized, you try to become more empathetic to your girlfriend because you're so tied up in making this thing a success, you forget to take her out. I'm being honest, man, I have that problem. Um, and I try to be really good about it. But you meet other people who have these other struggles, and not only is it nice because you're like, "Oh, I'm not the only psychopath on planet Earth," but also, like, y there's so much information that they know that you don't know, and the things that you learn, the friendships that you make, and when we talked earlier about finding creative ways to offer value for free or close to it, stuff like that, you know, we started that new podcast. It's like, how come I don't know about the other podcasts for things like this? Like, is this one of the first or maybe the first or whatever? Like, you know, it's amazing to see just what these people know outside of what their craft is. And to Brent's credit
Right.
too, I also agree with you, man. LA is a very diverse place. I was shocked how diverse Phoenix is too. I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
okay. There's a voice actor buddy of mine out here who wants to help us actually for the podcast. I actually need to get us all in touch. For like
Coming
intros
this
and outros and stuff.
summer.
He's good,
Yeah.
man. Like I'll send you his reel and. But like there's that kind of thing. There's my good friend Jimmy Thompson, who is a realtor, but this guy is like insane with his just he is like one of the most friendly like he's so nice, I feel like an ass. You know what I mean? And I think I'm nice, but like, and I've known other realtors because McKenna and I were looking for this house for like months, and the market's been so nuts with everything going on. But
Yeah.
And we worked with another realtor too. But man, after meeting this guy, he's the man. When I buy my house, it's him, you know. But
Yeah, for sure.
but I agree with you though. Making those friends in all these different industries is absolutely invaluable. And all the things that you learn and all the ways that you can grow and just have fun with these people and make actual genuine friendships is
Mhm.
just a plus along the way.
100%. 100%. And here's the thing. So let's say we've developed these relationships. Let's say we've asked for the reviews. Let's say we volunteered our time. Let's say we've done all these things. The biggest thing to remember in any relationship, and this is something that I'm sure everyone can connect to in their own personal lives, is sometimes if you're not hearing from a client, it's not that, they forgot about you. A lot of people are just busy, right? We're just busy. And it's even with some of my best friends, like people that I've been their best, I was like their best men, at their weddings. I was there for their mother's wedding, like whatever it was. Like these are people that are really close to me, but we're just busy sometimes. And so are our clients. And this is something to always remember. So it's so important for us as service providers to stay relevant in our clients' minds,
Mhm.
right? So if this means send a text, how's everything going with so and so? Send a newsletter out, how's everything going with so and so? When it comes to social media, it's just putting a post, right? That makes you relevant in their mind for that split second that they might be looking at it. But if you do something a little bit more personal, maybe send a postcard out, write an email to them just to see how they're doing. Or you do a like I remember when COVID happened. Check this out. So I left my old company with a long list of clients. Okay, before I started Canis, and obviously, I would say it was definitely close to 2,000 clients I had over the last 12 years. Emails, all this stuff. Well, obviously, I'm not hearing from almost 2,000 people, right? No, not
Mhm.
2,000 people are not referring to me. But check out what I did when COVID happened. I decided to do a series of free live streams every Sunday at 10 a.m. on the dot for 3 months. I did that for 3 months straight, free live streams. And I would send emails on the Friday before or the Saturday before to let everybody know and with a link for Sunday morning. And I cannot explain to you how many old clients, like clients I trained their dogs 6, 7, 8 years ago, who not only joined the live stream, but then referred their friend or their son or their cousin, or they called me back because they just got a new puppy for COVID. Like just being relevant and reminding them, hey guys, I'm still here. That was so important. Just keep them just stay in the back of their mind. That I got some business, a lot of, not some, I got a shit ton of business out of it. So yeah, finding a way to really stay in the back of your clients' minds. Now, obviously clients that are super close to you, kind of easy to do, but clients who, our relationship with them might be a little distant, you have to actually put some effort into it for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I agree to that, and I remember when you were doing those live streams, I think that's right when the podcast was, like, super new, right?
Yeah.
We were, like, in
Yeah.
we were, like, 6 episodes in at that point, and you were urging me to do the same thing, and I was like, "Yeah, that is a really good idea." Um, that's the kind of thing I can attest to that, like, not only as a business owner for being on this side of that coin, but also on the other side of that coin, because just once again, the Jimmy Thompson, the realtor, that's what he does. He sends like postcards and stuff like, and I see him every Wednesday in the networking
Hmm.
thing, but
Hmm.
he'll send me little things like that. He'll hit me up like, "Hey, bro, coffee?" Yeah, I'm like, "Sure. Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Hmm.
All right." I'm not
Hmm.
even a client of his yet. I haven't bought a house from him, but he's just a genuinely good person. And I'm
Yep.
like, but I know he's a realtor, so like that never leaves my mind. So I'm like, yeah, when I want a house,
Yeah. Yeah.
I want this.
Yeah.
And the amazing and the genius thing I think is like the live streams.
Yep.
And like your dad, and I fucking love your dad, by the way. Tell your dad I said hi. Um,
What's up?
um, the whole thing about people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right.
You doing live streams, me and Jimmy Thompson sitting down for coffee, stuff like that. Um, you're still talking about your expertise. So in a very authentic, normal, natural way, you're still kind of letting me know what you know, which is a ton, you know.
Mhm.
And so, like, we'll sit there and talk about whatever's going on, and he'll talk to me about, "Hey, how are your things with work going?" And I'll talk dog training. "How are your things at work going?" And he'll talk, selling homes and what's been going on with this whole thing. And so either way, you're learning how much these people have mastered their craft and how valuable they are in terms of like a professional to hire. So,
Mhm.
it's great to stay in their minds because you've become a friend, but I've never lost sight of the fact that you are a realtor, that you are a dog trainer, that you are a whatever.
Mhm.
And I do think that that's kind of a lost art these days. I admit, like sending out cards. Like one thing that we did was we bought Christmas cards and we sent out Christmas cards.
Right.
And you're right, man. People were sending us back. I had people send me back checks like of tips and I'm like, oh no, 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 that's not what I meant. Like I just wanted to know how
It's
you
not a
were doing.
donation.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and they were like, no, 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 please here because I'll tell you what, like my dog has just been so much better. Like I know it's just money, but I just need you to know, like I appreciate this.
Oh,
And I'm
that's so
like,
sweet of them.
okay, well, thanks, man. Like I'm glad to hear it. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's weird just how much a little postcard, a little something, a little hello can really brighten someone's day.
Mhm. Yeah, and on a bright note for your business, it reminds them of how you impacted their life. I
Right.
think that's a really important thing. All right, so I want to kind of wrap up this podcast a little bit, and let's just kind of go over just some main bullet points, some
Yeah.
takeaways of what to do. The number one takeaway from this is that even though social media is important, the old school way of marketing and doing business in person, interpersonal interactions, it still holds an amazing return on investment, right? Like the amount of time you put into either volunteering or staying in a certain place or certain. I'll tell you this cool little story.
Sure.
At my old company, I used to teach at a park. Okay, I would take my group classes, and instead of teaching, I would start them at the business and then I would move them over to a park. About 3 years ago, they turned this park into an actual dog park, which was nuts, right? So literally for the last, actually no, not 3 years, 2 years. For 2 years, this dog park existed at this park, and within 2 years, I started. Even though I've been teaching at this park for 6 years, within 2 years, I started literally meeting so many people at this dog park that anytime someone needed a dog trainer, they would refer me to another person at that dog park, right? And so we would have, in essence, I kind of had a territory almost, right? At this particular dog park in Westwood, anyone who needed dog training, there would always be at least 3 to 4 people in that dog park at any given time that would refer me to a new puppy owner or a new person or whatever. And that number has just been getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So the way that started was I would show up to the dog park. I would take my dog to the dog park. I would talk to people. I would continue to hold classes at that park. 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, 1 year later, I am currently running 4 different basic obedience group classes at that park on 4 separate dates of the week, right? And it's crazy. It's crazy how just sticking to one spot, really getting to know the people, really getting to develop an understanding of the environment and the needs and all that stuff has really just created a huge kind of a referral machine, right? There's this referral machine. And all I did was I focused on the people. I focused on interacting with them. I focused on introducing myself and letting them know what I did and how I could help them. And I did it in what I would consider to be a humble way, right? I didn't want
Mhm.
to uh, do anything in a weird way, you know? Um, yeah, that's what I had to say. What's next?
No, I agree. I think that's kind of what I found myself doing here, in the Phoenix area because I in LA, I mean, LA is such a big place, but still it's possible. I mean, we know trainers in LA who are like super busy and very well known and so on. So even though it's like a big pond, and Phoenix is still a pretty big ass pond too. It's one of the bigger cities in the country. I find that it's
Hmm.
still really possible as long as you find that kind of core park, like, and I'm thinking of a park more in like a metaphorical sense. Like you find that core space, that core territory, whatever you want to call it, and
Hmm.
just be around, be available, be there to talk to people, and like when people have questions or whatever the case, want to learn more, want to do more, you need to be open to like, okay, let me talk to you. Let's see what we can
Yeah.
do. And I
Now,
think that
now sorry, I want to. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, finish your point.
no, you're good at. Well, that's what I've been learning in terms of just having coffee with people, just hanging out, just learning how to make new friends.
Yeah, and be interested in people.
Right.
And what I want to do, I want to line you up for this next one because I think you'll be able to really tell a good story on this.
Okay.
I've been gifted with just this such a huge interest in human beings that I've been able to, as you mentioned earlier in the podcast, I really like just talking to random strangers and random people. But I think this next point, developing the skill set of talking to people, in essence, is what keeps a lot of people from being able to do these things that we're recommending and we're talking about, right? Old school marketing really revolves around the individual's ability and competence in dealing with people, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So I guess I'll throw this over to you. Like, what advice do you have for our listeners?
Advice for our listeners that I've learned, and for people who don't know, I guess you wouldn't know because this is a podcast, but like in life in general, I am not a super social person. I don't think I'm like Oscar the Grouch. I go out, I do my thing, I have my hobbies and my sports and my stuff. But outside of my core group, I'm not the social butterfly that like Brent is. I like keeping it real small and real simple. And I've noticed lately that that is not helpful for building a business. And it is true that it's also better to be a little more open, a little more sociable just in life in general. So in terms of developing that skill of talking to people and genuinely being interested, I don't want to feed you some bullshit of like do these three things like um, number one, I would say find where your personal like internal vulnerabilities lie when it comes to talking to people and address it, work on it, whatever that looks like. Brene Brown's got amazing books on this kind of topic. And when you go into a situation with that sort of mindset that like, yeah, maybe I'll say something dumb. I don't know. Maybe I won't. Maybe we'll be amazing friends. Maybe we just won't have anything in common. It's all a possibility, but learn how to be okay with taking the risk, so to speak. Then
Hmm.
you're more likely to just say something, just say anything.
Hmm.
Other than that, I would say again, without being a little too hokey about it, there are actual skill sets that you can learn when talking to people. Read different books on like interpersonal communication, read different books on speaking to groups of people. A way that I got better about it naturally was I've noticed that even the most introverted or antisocial of people, they can talk to someone when it's in the context of their work or when it's in the context of something that they
Hmm.
know a lot about and care a lot about.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
if you're like a dog trainer who's otherwise a shy person, but you're a dog trainer, you're good, start a group class. You're going to be
Yeah,
talking to six to, I don't know, eight people at a time. And you're going to develop the skill sets therein, right? Who to give attention to, how to take everybody's attention when it's time to talk as a teacher to the class. And once you're getting solid and comfortable with that, push out, like not in your group class, but just in normal social life, push out into other things, talk to big groups of people about other things, and just learn how to engage with everyone and be a part of the group.
that's amazing. Amazing advice. I love that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've seen that, and I've seen that in people that I've worked with and people that I've mentored. It's we all come with different DNA. We all come with different upbringings. We all come with different self talks that we give ourselves. But definitely identifying those weak areas that are preventing you from being able to market yourself or have the confidence to ask for that review or to develop that authentic relationship with those clients. I think, yeah, try and discover what those speed bumps are for
Right. And
sure.
and, and let me just say one more thing. I left this out because, you know, when we were talking about skill sets, this is one that I didn't so much develop myself. It was one that was
Hmm.
kind of taught to me. And this was by a client not too long ago. This was like 4 months ago. By a
Hmm.
client who's a marketeer. Like he works for Renewal by Anderson. It's that window company. And
Right.
he's like one of their higher ups for marketing and event coordination and stuff like that. He and I did a couple lessons after a board and train program with his dog at Home Depot, just for the distraction because it's busy. And in Phoenix, it's hot as hell. And 4 months ago, it was like 100 plus. So outside is really not an option. So
Hmm.
we'd go into stores and do lessons. And Petco's, I mean, they don't like other trainers doing lessons in there. So we'd go to other like non dog related places, like Home Depots and Lowe's and, Hobby Lobbies and stuff like that. So
Right.
each and every lesson that he and I have done in there, every single one, not only were people complimenting his dog, but uh, they were talking to me as the trainer because he, being a marketing person, he was talking me up, and I was too dumb to realize it. And so like after like our third lesson that we did in a Home Depot, somebody comes up, wow, that's amazing. Oh, I wish my Dane would do that, this and that. And I'm over here thinking, kind of like we talked about earlier, like the new trainer, I just don't want to waste my client's time. So I'm like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Here's a card. Let me get back to him, but I'd love to talk to you more. And then when we're done, he's like, why didn't you spend the 2 minutes to talk to her a little bit? Learn a little bit of her problem. Yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
know what? Why don't we schedule something? I'd love to get right back. And he was like, why didn't you just say this? It would have taken you 90 seconds, bro. And last time
Yeah.
we did it,
Yeah.
these other two ladies talked to you. And then the first time we did it, that one guy talked to you. And I was like, and in my head, I was like, I was just trying to be attentive to you. He was like,
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
like, that's fine, but I was talking you up. I was giving you the open.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
was like, "You're right, you're right." But his point was when you're talking to people, because dog trainers naturally do that. Everybody does the same thing. Oh, you're a dog trainer? You're like Caesar? Oh, you must be so patient. You must be so this. You must be so this. And like
Yep.
everybody kind of generically knows how to play that off and have fun and just talk to someone friendly. But not
Right.
everybody knows how to convert that into useful conversation. Like, yeah, man, tell me about your dog. What troubles are you experiencing? This and that. Like he was talking about shifting it in the direction that's valuable for you. Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
love to talk more about this. Can I get your phone number? Can I,
Yep.
what's his Instagram? What's this and that? And don't be
Yep.
afraid to kind of jump in like that.
Yeah, it's you're taking the attention and you're converting it into a lead,
Correct.
and I think it's something as simple. It's so funny, and this is I hope this doesn't come off wrong, but it's kind of like dating. It's kind of like talking to people, that you might be romantically interested in, right? Because it's the same kind of thing. It's having a conversation like you have 10 seconds to buy the next 10 seconds of conversation, right? And if you don't get that next 10 seconds of conversation, then you don't have a conversation, right?
Right.
So it's kind of like I'm every 10 seconds you're trying to buy the next moment. And when someone is talking you up like that, I think it's important for you to, yeah, it is hard. It's a hard skill to be like, hey, maybe I get their number, maybe I get their email, maybe I give them my website and I text
Hmm.
it to them. But at least you have that connection.
Hmm.
And whether or not that's going to turn into a business transaction down the line, at least you made the connection,
I
whether if you get a girl's number, whether you guys actually go on a date, well, it's not about that actually, whether you go on the date. Sometimes it's just about getting the number, you know?
I
So anyways.
agree. And when since you bring up dating, here's the funny thing about like my fear and the newer trainers' fear, like we were talking about earlier, with sticking to the
Mhm,
script, was
mhm.
I didn't want to I didn't want to throw too much at them. I didn't want to feel like I was too aggressive. I don't want to be that weird
Right.
salesman. And when it comes to dating, you don't want to be too like whatever that word is. But everybody knows what we're talking about. Like, yeah, don't be too
Too
much.
pushy, too
Too
pushy. You
pushy.
know, yeah.
But on the flip side, everybody's spoken to that one person who was like, I don't know, are they even into me? Because if they are, they're not letting me know. So
Exactly.
so like from a client's perspective, it's like, if you're not handing out your card to somebody who's clearly asking you about dog training because they're impressed with your work,
Yeah.
what are they thinking? Are they like, oh, okay, asshole, like, do you not want any more clients right now? Like, just give out the card. If they don't reach out to you, that's okay. But make sure that it's not because they didn't feel like they were welcome. Make sure
Right.
you did your job.
100%. Yep. That is a great, clarification and point to make. Dude, totally. Here's my last point that I wanna make.
Mhm,
And this is actually something you wrote down, is make sure that you nurture relationships, right? Because
mhm,
you never know when or if they'll pay off, right? My nurturing relationships can come in a bunch of different ways, but this is a story that my mentor taught me, and this is something that I always think about anytime I'm dealing with any particular client. This is more of a short term payoff. Okay, my mentor used to run an electronics store where they sold stereos and everything. And back when he was a young salesman, back in the 70s, they would pretty much, they would be open from 9 to 6, right? He says he remembers a there was a gentleman at like five. They close at 6, and the gentleman walks in at 5:50. right? And he's walking around looking at a bunch of stereos, looking at a bunch of speakers, and he's over here already sweeping up the store. And they're sweeping up the store, and this guy's still walking around. And instead of telling the guy, "Excuse me, sir, we're closing in 10 minutes, please get out," he decided to walk up to the guy and go, "Hey, how can I help you?" Right? And he goes, "Yeah, I'm just looking. My girlfriend's really interested in buying some speakers, and I'm just looking around. What do you recommend?" And so instead of trying to shoo the guy out the store or kick the guy out, he just kind of said, "Well, let me talk to you. Let me show you around." Like, even though they were closing, he almost made it seem as if they weren't going to close.
Hmm.
And he decided to open up the whole store to him, and he started demoing different stereos, different speakers, different things, right? And he shows the guy around, and he takes the time to nurture this relationship. He takes the time to get to know this guy, what he needs and everything. And little did my mentor know that this guy would then later, when his girlfriend pulled up in the car, they would buy $10,000 worth of equipment
Hmm.
in one night.
Hmm.
In one night, right? And so this is an example of, if you just take every client as, again, you never know what could come from any client, right? It could just come no transaction. But if you treat every single client with the same love and attention and care, you will be so surprised at what potential payoff can happen later in the future, right?
Yeah.
And yes, it takes work, and it takes energy, and it takes um, effort for sure. But I've been paid off, and I mean that in a metaphorical way, and sometimes in a literal way. Like, a lot of clients have bought from me, but 2 months later, 3 months later, 6 months later, 1 year later, a client who I completely thought, forgot about me, straight up just refers someone to me that I'm just like, "Thank you. This client was one of the best clients ever."
Yeah, it is the weirdest thing, and it's funny because it's not even always a direct, like, it's not even always necessarily a referral. Sometimes
Right.
it's like a client from 3, 4 years ago referred someone to me, and I trained their dog, so it was a referral, but this person whose dog I trained, this referral from my original client, this person is now just an amazing good friend of mine. You know,
Right.
I have friends who started as clients who we do game nights with them all the time. Like, it has the potential to turn into so much more than a client, a referral, and like it's absolutely invaluable. And the funny thing is, yeah, you're right. I wrote this down, but I wrote it down because I learned this from you. I was just the
Mm.
one who wrote it down. Nurture those relationships because you never know when they'll pay off. And that's kind of what I meant earlier when I was talking about, like, head knowledge is an interesting thing. Like, that. Like, people listening to this right now, they're hearing me. They know this. But it's interesting to find out, and I'd love to know, by the way, guys, like, reach out to us and let me know if this really starts to work for you. If you start to use this information like 6 months, a year from now, whatever the case, let us know, because it's funny between understanding a concept and knowing how to actually do it in the real world. But yeah, like, nurturing relationships is an amazing thing. It's absolutely invaluable. Since I've been kind of on that kick of trying to get better about it, I've even been trying to, like, get in touch with old high school friends, and so, like, I'll
Nice.
I'll, like, call them and talk to them, and, and I'm here talking their ear off, and I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know, man. I just wanna be a part of more people's lives all of a sudden," you know?
Yeah.
It's a weird shift.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree 100%, man. I think that kind of wraps up this episode. I think we hope that this episode really provided some value for you guys. These are just some of our experiences. Some things that we know to be tried and true as marketing techniques to help you get leads, to help you get further business. It's really, really important. If you guys found this episode informative or helpful, these tactics don't just work for dog trainers. They work for anyone who has any business, who's a self-starter, who is trying to create business or leads for themselves. I recommend go ahead and do this. Please, if you guys can, share this with at least one other person. That would be awesome. And also, those of you guys who are listening, whatever podcast platform you're on, whether it be Spotify, iTunes, Google, doesn't matter. Please go ahead and leave us a review on there as well. So that way other people who are looking for podcasts, if they see your guys' reviews, then they can at least be guided towards this particular podcast, so that we can help them as well.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. This is episode 34, all about how old school marketing still works. Again, my name is Brent LaBrada, and that guy over there is Mariano Alvarez. And we want to thank you guys so much for listening, and we look forward to seeing you guys at episode 35. Peace.
Peace. Thank you for listening to the Dog Trainers Podcast, a podcast created by dog trainers, for dog trainers, or anyone who's ever fallen in love with man's best friend.
We really hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we hope to see you back for the next one. But in the meantime, please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Dog Trainers Podcast. Go ahead and leave a comment. Ask us any questions that you want. We would love to connect with our dog trainer communities all around the world. Take care, guys. We'll see you next time.